Did you know that two angels once descended to earth not to bring light, but to teach the darkest secrets of magic? The story of Harut and Marut is one that has been hidden for centuries, yet its impact echoes through time. Are you ready to uncover the forbidden knowledge they shared? In this video, we'll explore the fascinating and mysterious story of Harut and Marut, two angels who came to Babylon to teach humanity the power of magic. While this story is often overlooked, it has profound lessons about knowledge, power, and the consequences of our choices, lessons we can still apply today. We'll break down the purpose of their mission, the consequences that followed, and how their teachings shape the way we view knowledge and power in the modern world. From ancient Babylon to today's digital age, this story is a warning about the power we possess and how we choose to use it. 1. Harut and Marut in Babylon. The forbidden knowledge. Harut and Marut, two angels sent by God, came down to Babylon, a city known for its wealth, grandeur, and ancient wisdom. The Quran, in Surah al-Baqarah 2102, tells us that they were sent with a special mission to teach humans magic. But this wasn't an act of benevolence. It was a divine test, a trial for humanity. In Babylon, knowledge of the stars, astronomy, and mystical arts was already thriving. The city was a hub for the study of both the visible and hidden worlds, where priests and scholars sought to understand the mysteries of the universe. The temptation of forbidden knowledge was already present in Babylon's culture. People sought to harness the power of the heavens and the earth to influence their destinies. The arrival of Harut and Marut only amplified the allure of this secret knowledge. The angels didn't come with treasures or powerful gifts. They came with something far more dangerous, knowledge that could alter the course of lives. But the angels made it clear that what they were offering wasn't a gift. They warned the people, saying, "We are only a trial. Do not deny us." But despite this warning, the people of Babylon couldn't resist the allure of this forbidden knowledge. They wanted control, they wanted power, and they wanted to manipulate their fates. The angels offered them a glimpse into the supernatural, showing them the forces of magic and the hidden powers of words and symbols. This was a chance to peer into a world that was otherwise out of reach. Spiritual significance lies in the fact that this magic wasn't just about influencing events, it was about control. It was a test of human choices. Would the people use this power responsibly, or would they fall prey to the temptation to control, manipulate, and exploit others for personal gain? For Catholics, the story of Harut and Marut serves as a powerful reminder. Knowledge in and of itself is not inherently good or evil. It is how we choose to use that knowledge that matters. Whether it's the ancient knowledge of Babylon or modern-day technology, we must remember the consequences of misusing power. Every decision we make, especially when it comes to how we wield the knowledge we possess, has eternal ramifications. As we reflect on this, we must ask ourselves, in the age of information, how are we using the tools and knowledge we have? Are we using them to serve God's will, or have we allowed the pursuit of power to lead us astray? Harut and Marut's story reminds us that knowledge, when used for selfish reasons, can become a dangerous weapon, turning us away from our faith and from the divine purpose for which we were created. 2. The consequences of forbidden knowledge, the power and the price. The consequences of Harut and Marut's teachings in Babylon were devastating. As the people began to master the magical arts, the world around them changed in ways they hadn't anticipated. The power to alter fate, to manipulate events, came at a heavy cost. Families were torn apart, friendships destroyed, and trust shattered. In the ancient world, magic was not simply an academic pursuit or a form of entertainment. It was a tool to gain power, influence, and control. Babylon, a city already famous for its wealth and grandeur, became a place where spells, potions, and rituals were used not only for personal gain, but for political power. Priests, kings, and commoners alike turned to magic to alter their fortunes, influence military conquests, or settle personal vendettas. But with the power came corruption. The magic taught by Harut and Marut, while captivating, was inherently dangerous. It was not a gift, but a trial, a means by which God tested humanity. The Quran, Surah al-Baqarah 2:102, makes it clear. This knowledge was offered as a trial, a test of their morality and judgment. But when the people of Babylon began to misuse this power, chaos ensued. Magic, which was meant to be a trial, became a tool of destruction. Spiritual significance is woven deeply into this story. Magic, in the context of the Quran, is seen as a form of idolatry, a distraction from worshipping and trusting in God. The practice of magic leads people away from faith and reliance on God, replacing His divine will with the false security of human power. When used for personal gain or control, it becomes a form of rebellion against God's sovereignty. This rebellion wasn't just a matter of practicing a forbidden art. It was about turning away from the Creator's guidance in exchange for temporary, fleeting control over the world. For Catholics, this story speaks to the heart of what it means to wield power in our own lives. Whether it's through technology, influence, or wealth, the question we must ask ourselves is, how do we use the power we have? Do we use our knowledge to glorify God and help others, or do we manipulate and control for personal gain? The consequences of misusing knowledge are profound and far-reaching. In the case of Babylon, the city eventually fell into ruin. What was once a great and powerful civilization crumbled under the weight of its own arrogance and misuse of knowledge. This should serve as a warning to us today. The pursuit of power, when divorced from faith in God and His guidance, leads to spiritual and moral decay. The story of Harut and Marut invites us to reflect on the choices we make in using the knowledge and tools at our disposal. Just as the people of Babylon were led astray by the misuse of magic, we too can be led astray by the misuse of the power and knowledge we have today. Whether it's through technology, social media, or influence, we must be vigilant. Are we using these tools to serve others, to build a just and loving world? Or are we letting them drive wedges between us, spreading division and strife? In the end, the message is clear. Knowledge is not the problem. How we use it is. The power of choice lies in our hands, and the consequences of those choices ripple through history. As Catholics, we are reminded to seek wisdom and guidance from God, not from the dark forces that seek to manipulate and control. The legacy of Harut and Marut's teachings should serve as a call to use all knowledge for good, for the glory of God, and for the betterment of humanity. 3. The mark of Cain, a lineage divided. The story of Cain, the firstborn son of Adam and Eve, is one that's as ancient as it is complex. His tragic tale begins with an act of murder, the killing of his brother Abel. But it doesn't end there. In the Quran, the legacy of Cain is marked not only by his crime but also by the spiritual consequences of his actions. The mark of Cain, which God placed on him as both a sign and a punishment, represents much more than just a mark on the skin. It signifies a spiritual separation, a division between two paths, the path of rebellion and the path of redemption. In the context of Harut and Marut's story, the concept of the mark takes on new layers. Just as the angels Harut and Marut's descent to earth led to a test of moral integrity, Cain's actions established a division in humanity that has echoed throughout history. Cain, after slaying Abel, was condemned to wander, marked as an outcast. He was separated from the righteous lineage of Seth, his brother, and his descendants became associated with a spiritual darkness that would influence generations to come. The mark of Cain serves as a vivid metaphor, a symbol of spiritual separation from God. It was not merely a physical mark to identify Cain, but a sign of the deeper division in his heart, a division that would affect his descendants and shape the history of humanity. The spiritual significance of this division becomes apparent when we consider the consequences of Cain's choice. Rebellion against God's plan, even in the face of His mercy and guidance, leads to a path of destruction and alienation. Cain's defiance was not simply an act of murder. It was an act of rejecting God's authority, choosing his own will over God's. This division, however, was not a one-time event in history. It has reverberated through time, influencing the trajectory of entire civilizations. The descendants of Cain and the descendants of Seth, often viewed as the righteous lineage, represent two paths that humanity continues to walk today. one grounded in faith and trust in God, and the other in self-reliance, pride, and rebellion. The mark of Cain thus serves as a warning for us all. Just as his descendants turned away from God's plan, we too are given the choice to align ourselves with God's will or to walk the path of rebellion. As Catholics, we are invited to reflect on how we live our lives in light of this division. Do we make decisions based on our desires, seeking to control our fate as Cain did? Or do we choose humility and obedience to God, trusting that His plan is greater than our own? The story of Cain reminds us that our choices, no matter how seemingly small, can have long-lasting spiritual consequences. Cain's rebellion didn't just affect him, it set the stage for a line of descendants who would turn away from God. Similarly, the choices we make today can shape not only our spiritual journey, but the legacy we leave behind for future generations. We may not bear a physical mark like Cain, but we do carry the weight of our spiritual choices. This story invites us to examine where we stand in the battle between light and darkness. Are we walking in the path of righteousness, as Seth's lineage did, or have we allowed our pride and self-interest to separate us from God's will? In our modern world, where we are surrounded by distractions and temptations, it is easy to lose sight of this crucial choice. But the legacy of Cain calls us to choose wisely and to remember that our relationship with God shapes not only our future, but the future of those who come after us. 4. The return of evil, the impact of magic in Babylon. The story of Harut and Marut is a tale deeply intertwined with the rise and fall of Babylon, a city known for its grandeur, wealth, and secrets. But with the forbidden knowledge Harut and Marut shared, Babylon's fame took a dark turn. The people of Babylon were introduced to the ancient and powerful forces of magic, a knowledge that could alter the very fabric of reality itself. But this power, though captivating, brought with it immense consequences. The use of magic was not merely a tool for healing or knowledge, it became a means of control, manipulation, and destruction. As Harut and Marut descended upon Babylon, they carried a message. They were a test, a trial set by God. But the people did not heed the warning. Instead, they sought to harness the magical knowledge for their own gain, using it to influence events, to control others, and to alter their fates. The results were disastrous. What began as a thirst for power and understanding quickly spiraled into chaos. The magic taught by Harut and Marut had the potential to break homes, destroy relationships, and divide communities. It didn't just grant power, it twisted hearts, leading people to seek control over what was never meant to be controlled. Marriages were broken as the magic allowed for the manipulation of emotions and desires. Families were torn apart as people used spells to gain power or exact revenge. The city that once thrived on wisdom and advancement soon found itself drowning in the consequences of its pursuit of forbidden knowledge. Spiritually, this scenario serves as a profound warning. Magic in the Quranic context is not just a supernatural power, it represents the temptation to place trust in forces other than God, to believe that we can control our fate apart from divine will. The practice of magic, when misused, leads people away from their faith in God and toward a reliance on forces that ultimately distance them from His guidance. In Babylon, this shift was not immediate. At first, magic appeared as a tool for progress, but it soon revealed its true nature, a deceptive and dangerous force that corrupted the hearts of men. The spiritual significance of this story cannot be overstated. The rise and fall of Babylon serve as a powerful reminder of the dangers of seeking power outside of God's will. The city's fall is not merely a physical one, it is a spiritual collapse, driven by the misuse of knowledge and the embrace of forces that were never meant to be wielded by human hands. It serves as a cautionary tale that knowledge and power, when not rooted in truth and righteousness, can lead to destruction. As Catholics, we are called to reflect on how we use the knowledge and resources available to us today. In our modern world, we have access to immense power through technology, media, and even social influence. But the story of Babylon's fall challenges us to consider, how are we using these gifts? Are we seeking them to uplift others, to help those in need, and to glorify God? Or are we, like the Babylonians, using them for personal gain, for control, or for selfish desires? The warning is clear. Just as Babylon was consumed by the destructive power of magic, we too are susceptible to being consumed by our own misuse of the tools and knowledge available to us. Whether it's through the influence of media, the manipulation of technology, or the pursuit of personal ambition, the temptation to misuse our power remains strong. And just as in Babylon, the consequences can be far-reaching, damaging relationships, breaking communities, and leading us away from God. This scene calls us to examine our hearts and our actions. How are we using the knowledge and resources entrusted to us? Are we building up God's kingdom, or are we allowing ourselves to be influenced by dark forces, whether visible or hidden? The story of Harut and Marut reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge and power without a moral compass will inevitably lead to destruction. It urges us to return to God's wisdom, to seek His guidance in how we use the gifts He has given us, and to always align our actions with His will, lest we fall into the same traps that brought Babylon to its knees. 5. The Dark Legacy. How forbidden knowledge echoes through time. The impact of Harut and Marut's teachings didn't end with the fall of Babylon. Their influence stretched far beyond that ancient city, leaving a dark legacy that would echo through history. The forbidden knowledge they imparted became a seed that sprouted in various cultures, influencing spiritual practices, occult traditions, and even the arts and sciences. From ancient Egypt to medieval Europe, the practices taught by these two angels spread and evolved, influencing generations that came long after Babylon's fall. Babylon, as the epicenter of mystical knowledge and forbidden practices, left a mark on the ancient world. Magic, once thought to be a divine trial, became a tool for those seeking power over life, death, and even fate itself. These practices, though initially rooted in the teachings of Harut and Marut, found their way into the hands of kings, priests, and scholars. They were used to influence the rise and fall of empires, to sway the fates of individuals, and to manipulate natural forces for selfish gain. The historical context here is critical. The magical practices that emerged in Babylon weren't limited to the city's walls. They spread to other parts of the world, particularly in cultures where mysticism, astrology, and occult knowledge thrived. Ancient Egypt's priests, for instance, employed similar practices to communicate with spirits and control the elements. In Greece and Rome, philosophy and magic often went hand in hand, as great thinkers like Plato and Aristotle discussed the powers of the universe in mystical terms. But the darker side of these practices, the occult, continued to grow, feeding on the same desires for power and control that Harut and Marut warned against. The spread of forbidden knowledge has shaped cultures and religions throughout history. Even during the Middle Ages, the influence of magic could be seen in the practices of alchemy, necromancy, and divination. Kings and rulers sought to harness magical powers to fortify their rule, often turning to occultists and mystics for guidance. The Inquisitions, accusations of witchcraft, and the burning of heretics all stemmed from this centuries-long legacy of magical teachings, an inheritance that humanity couldn't shake off, no matter how hard it tried to erase it. But this dark legacy is not just a part of ancient history. The allure of forbidden knowledge still lingers in our modern world. Today, the concept of magic has evolved and found new forms in our culture, whether through occult practices, secret societies, or even in the entertainment industry. Movies, books, and popular media often glorify dark powers, blurring the lines between reality and fantasy, and subtly planting the seeds of magic's influence in the hearts of viewers. From the hidden messages in media to the rise of digital manipulation, today's society has adapted ancient magical practices to suit modern needs. Social media platforms, advertisements, and algorithms have become the new spellbooks, guiding and influencing our choices, desires, and even beliefs. The use of technology to manipulate behavior, sway elections, and influence public opinion is not so different from the ancient magic that sought to control minds and alter fate. In many ways, the tools have changed, but the temptation to control and influence remains the same. The spiritual significance of this dark legacy cannot be overstated. The persistent influence of forbidden knowledge, whether through magic, media, or technology, serves as a powerful reminder that evil does not always come in obvious forms. In ancient Babylon, it was the practice of magic that drew people away from God's guidance. Today, it's the subtle influences of modern culture and technology that seek to draw us away from the light of God's wisdom. The devil, in his craftiness, uses whatever tools are available to keep humanity from seeking the truth and walking in the light. As Catholics, we must be vigilant in discerning how we engage with the world around us. The story of Harut and Marut teaches us that even knowledge itself can be dangerous if it is not rooted in faith, humility, and the wisdom of God. Power, when wielded without God's guidance, leads to destruction, whether through ancient magical practices or modern-day technologies. We are reminded to examine not only the sources of our knowledge, but also the motivations behind it. Are we seeking wisdom to glorify God and serve others? Or are we using it for personal gain or to control those around us? The story of Babylon and the legacy of Harut and Marut serve as an important spiritual lesson for us today. Just as magic once threatened to consume the ancient world, the modern world faces its own threats, the manipulation of our minds and hearts by unseen forces. We are called to remain grounded in our faith, to seek the wisdom of God, and to use the tools at our disposal to build His kingdom, not our own empire of control. 6. The modern face of magic. Is it still with us? As we reflect on the ancient story of Harut and Marut and the spread of forbidden knowledge, it's impossible to ignore the parallels between the ancient world and the modern one. Though the tools and methods have changed, the essence of what was taught in Babylon remains with us today, subtly influencing the world around us. The magic of Babylon, which once took the form of rituals, spells, and mystical knowledge, has evolved into more insidious forms in our contemporary society. In the past, magicians used words, symbols, and rituals to influence the hearts and minds of people. In the modern world, we see a new form of manipulation through media, technology, and social influence. The tools are now digital, but the goal remains the same: to shape perceptions, control behavior, and manipulate the masses, whether through social media platforms, advertising, or entertainment. The modern world has created an environment where powerful forces work behind the scenes to influence our thoughts, desires, and actions. Consider the way advertisements are designed today. Subliminal messaging, hidden symbols, and persuasive language are used to guide consumer behavior without them even realizing it. Just like the spells of Babylonian magicians, these modern techniques play with human psychology, influencing our choices and preferences at a subconscious level. Marketers understand the power of suggestion, using images, colors, sounds, and words to manipulate our emotions and guide us toward decisions that benefit others, not necessarily us. Modern technology also shares disturbing similarities with the ancient magical practices. Algorithms on social media platforms track our behavior, preferences, and interactions. What we click on, watch, and like is used to create a digital profile of who we are. These algorithms predict our next move, feeding us content that aligns with our desires and biases, reinforcing patterns of behavior and thought. The goal? To keep us hooked, engaged, and ultimately controlled. Just as ancient magicians used rituals to bind people to a system, today's technology uses sophisticated algorithms to do the same thing, except now it's not spells and potions, it's data and predictive programming. This is where the story of Harut and Marut becomes incredibly relevant. The ancient practice of using knowledge for control, whether over the human body, mind, or destiny, is alive and well today. The knowledge that was once forbidden is now freely accessible to many. But with it comes a new kind of danger. Instead of using spells to control kings or alter fates, we now have the ability to influence entire populations. The same thirst for power and control that led the people of Babylon to abuse the knowledge gifted to them is now manifest in the digital age. The spiritual significance of these modern-day practices is deeply concerning. In the ancient world, the pursuit of forbidden knowledge led people away from God's divine truth. Similarly, today's society is increasingly drawn toward technologies and ideologies that prioritize human control over divine will. The pursuit of material success, social validation, and personal power has become an idol for many, leading them to embrace shortcuts and manipulations instead of seeking truth, wisdom, and justice. Just as Harut and Marut warned the people of Babylon that their knowledge would come with devastating consequences, we too must recognize the dangers of misusing the tools available to us today. As Catholics, it's essential for us to examine our relationship with modern media and technology. How are we engaging with these powerful forces? Are we using them to glorify God, to build community, and to spread truth? Or are we allowing them to shape our desires and thoughts away from God's will? The story of Harut and Marut teaches us that knowledge, while powerful, must be used wisely and with discernment. The more we give ourselves over to modern forms of magic, whether through media, technology, or other influences, the more we risk losing touch with God's plan for us. We must be vigilant, discerning, and grounded in our faith. The story of Babylon and the legacy of Harut and Marut reminds us that while knowledge and power can be tools for good, they can also lead us astray if used for selfish purposes. The real power lies in using these tools with humility, faith, and a commitment to God's will, ensuring that they serve His kingdom and not our own desires. In today's world, we must continue to seek God's wisdom above all else. Just as Harut and Marut's teachings served as a test for humanity, the choices we make and how we engage with the world today are also a test. Let's be careful not to fall into the trap of misusing knowledge and power. Let's strive to keep our hearts and minds aligned with God's purpose, so that, in all things, we may honor Him and fulfill the calling He has placed on our lives. Conclusion. As we reflect on the ancient story of Harut and Marut, the powerful angels who descended to teach forbidden knowledge, we are reminded of a timeless truth. The choices we make with the knowledge and power entrusted to us shape not only our lives but the world around us. The people of Babylon misused the secrets of the universe, leading to chaos and destruction. Similarly, today we are entrusted with powerful tools, technology, media, and knowledge that can either build or destroy, depending on how we use them. The tale of Harut and Marut serves as a poignant warning about the dangers of seeking power for its own sake. It calls us to question our motivations, our desires for control, and the subtle forces that influence our lives. Are we, like the people of Babylon, allowing ourselves to be drawn into the pursuit of power and influence that is detached from God's will? Or are we using our gifts, talents, and knowledge to serve His greater purpose? The consequences of misusing power and knowledge are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. As Catholics, we are called to be stewards of God's gifts, to use our abilities to serve Him and others, and to be vigilant against the temptations that lead us astray. The power of words, symbols, and influence can be used for good, but they can also serve dark forces that separate us from God's truth. We must, therefore, remain grounded in our faith, seeking God's wisdom above all else, and using the tools of this world with discernment and humility. If this video has resonated with you, I encourage you to reflect on the ways you engage with the knowledge and power around you. Are you using it to glorify God and build up His kingdom, or have you unknowingly fallen into the traps of the world's temptations? Share this message with others who may need to hear it, and subscribe for more insights into how we can navigate our lives in accordance with God's will. Take a moment to reflect. How are you using the power and influence available to you in today's world? Let us know in the comments below how you guard your heart and mind against the subtle forces that seek to lead us away from God. Remember, true power lies not in control, but in humility, faith, and obedience to God's divine plan.